Hey Mike,
Hey, how's it going?
going great. I am so excited and honored to have you join us for this shift series. We had the good fortune of spending some time talking last week, and I have been lit up, excited, challenged. I had a little comparisonitis going on too. I was becoming an even bigger Mike fan and feeling smallness and wanting to match your incredible light and vibration. So I feel so honored that you're here and willing to share your story with us. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I don't know how you could ever feel small around anyone.
Thank you.
You have so much light yourself, so really, this is a huge honor to even be here.
Thank you. I feel the same way. There's so much connection and resonance between our stories and our experiences. You have had a really amazing journey. You experienced success at a young age. You took courageous steps of weaving in and out of academics and into business and stepping into partnership and experiencing success on a level that many, many are striving to experience once in their life, and you have found many times and are continuing to create for yourself. Will you tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my story starts pretty young. At about 20 years old, I left school for a little bit to work at a large PR agency. And it was just accidental. I one day became friends with Gordon Brown's advisor and George Clooney's publicist and all these people. The next year, when I was going to do another one of these stints, a company in San Francisco called me and they wanted me to work for them. And I really resonated with this company. I really like these people. I moved out there and I thought, hey, this work we're doing, we could do ourselves. We don't need this big global company. So we talked about it, and everybody else was 40 something. I was the only 21-year-old, but we started our own company. And so I went to school full time and also worked at this company full time as a partner. And when I graduated, this became my full time job. And I really lived that PR lifestyle. I got free drinks everywhere I went. I was hard partying, really hard working, constantly stressed, probably not eating healthy. And it really came to a head one day when I was 24 years old. So a few years after we had started, I started vomiting blood.
Yeah.
I woke up one night and I was vomiting blood. And it really scared me. And I thought, okay, I'm not going to tell that many people about this because it's not a big deal. Like maybe I drank too much. Who knows what this is. 3 days later, I was still vomiting blood a few times a day. And I finally told my roommate. And I said, we've got to do something with this. I guess you need to take me to the hospital. And I was there for a few days. I was hooked up to an IV because I couldn't eat or drink anything. Um, and I was really, sick. No one knew what was wrong with me. I was going through a lot of tests. People thought it was probably an infection. So that happened for a while. And I was finally released. I could only drink water, and I had to have, electrolytes in my water. I couldn't really eat anything for a period of time. I remember once I cheated and ate a Tostito, and it was the most delicious thing in the world at this point, a Tostito, because I hadn't eaten food in like weeks. So it was a really strange journey. And through this, actually, I decided enough is enough. I've
Yeah.
got to get better. I don't know what that means, but I've got to get better. So I went to reflexology, Reiki, acupuncture, meditation every single day. It became my full-time job to get better. Previously, I would never have even tried these therapies, but I was desperate because I had an MRI test about 2 weeks out, and they told me, this is going to tell us how bad your pancreas is. Right now, we can see your pancreas is failing. You're going to have type 1 diabetes, or you're going to have pancreatic cancer. And so I said, no, that's not going to happen. I got to get better. So I went through all of this, and I wrote forgiveness letters. I was tapping. I was doing herbs. I really threw everything at it. So I figured, changing my diet and everything. And I went into that test, and there was nothing wrong with me. I was 100% better. And I was shocked. This
Yeah.
was a moment where I said, okay, now I need to reevaluate
Yeah.
everything I know about life because I'm a healthcare reform guy, and this is not what I understand about healthcare. Um, and so I wrote a blog that really chronicled my own journey on the healing path. And what I found was the health issue was just the tip of the iceberg. It
Right.
really got me introduced to a deeper level of healing that I needed to go through. My roommate at the time, who had been a friend for about 6 years, he was taking care of me and really helping bring me to different appointments. He would stay in and watch movies all summer with me. He would rub
Wow.
my back when I was in pain. And
Wow.
about 2 months into this, I realized I think I'm falling in love with him. And this was a really strange feeling because, previously I had only been interested in dated women. I had just broken up with a girl for 5 years,
Wow.
and I didn't know what this meant. There were
Right.
romantic, maybe, feelings, but it wasn't sexual. And I thought, I have completely blown my expectations out about health. Why not love too? Maybe I'm not as attached to this identity as I thought I was. And I went on a 3-year journey, with him to explore how can we make this work. How
Wow.
can we express love in a way that feels comfortable to us, but also honors how we feel we are.
Yeah.
And so I'm still with him today, Garrett, my boyfriend. We live together, and then came the career change, and so I felt like the health crisis was one part of it, but there was some deep healing that needed to happen on a lot of different levels. And I know it sounds crazy to say now, but the best thing that ever happened to me was getting sick. It really changed my life and opened me up into so many healing modalities I never would have considered.
Oh, it's so true. And I know it's so hard if we're at the place still where we're just diagnosed or we're facing the dark nights and we don't exactly know how to step forward. It's inspiring and it gives us hope to hear these stories, but it can feel like, can I really have that? Is that a miracle that's external to me? Is it even appropriate for me to set my sights on that deeper level of hearing or that radical healing or that radical transformation? What were some of the things that you did along the way when you were in those moments of doubt or total fear? Because you were open to throwing all these new modalities, but they were new for you. You
Mm-hmm.
didn't have that modeled necessarily around you. This took courageousness and confidence and all the other things that go into taking new steps forward. How did you do that for yourself? How did you grant permission for yourself?
Yeah, well, I love that question because anytime I write or someone hears me speak at first, they're like, God, everything seems so easy and glamorous. Not at all. You're not getting all of the freak out panic attacks. So I
Right.
remember the first time I went to acupuncture, and I'll be the first to admit I don't really drive. I live in the city, and so I borrowed my boyfriend's car, and I had to drive downtown to this acupuncture appointment. And I was so nervous because I didn't know what acupuncture was, and then I had to parallel park in downtown Boston, and I remember he told me the exact directions how to get there where I could park. But then I didn't have coins on me because I didn't even think about meters, and I just remember pulling over, crying and screaming because I was so scared. I was still feeling so sick, and I was so scared. And I was scared about the acupuncture. I mean, the
Of
rest was
course.
just kind of happening around it, and I ended up being 15 minutes late. I was sweating. I was running in there, and I remember thinking, and the next time I was scared, the next time I went to reflexology or something new, I
Yeah.
did that. And I
Yeah.
got through that,
Yeah.
and I was shaking. I was
Yeah.
crying. I was so
Yeah.
scared. But if I can do that, I can do anything. And
Absolutely.
I gotta tell you, the one thing that really got me, this is my favorite story to tell, is I was at work one day, and I had an accident. I could not control my bowels. I had an accident at work. And this is the worst thing. I finally made it to the bathroom, but I said, my phone, I don't even have my phone on it. What am I going to do? So I had to clean myself off as best I could, sneak out to my desk, get my phone, and run back to the bedroom. And I sat there looking in the mirror, like, what the heck am I going to do? Finally, I said, you just got to man up and do something about this. So I texted the office manager. I had her print out of office sign up. I texted my coworker, had him pack up my stuff. I had another friend buy me a pair of shorts down the street, and I snuck out the back door. And I remember thinking, you just did that, and you survived.
Yeah.
These are not great experiences. And anytime I went to a restaurant after that, I'd have to be seated near the bathroom. And I had to,
Yeah.
there was two precautions. I had
Yep.
social anxiety
Of
around all of these
course.
things. But with every experience, I did have the courage to take a step forward. I had that in my back pocket. And I thought,
Yeah.
I could do that. And I survived that, so I can survive the next thing.
Oh, heck yeah. And your story is so on point. Not only did you have the courage to really see the situation, you're like, all right, this is the pits. Here I am. It doesn't get much worse than this. But this is the reality. Like, I'm looking in the mirror. What am I going to do? Then you took the courageous step. But you did something where I think a lot of people sometimes get stuck, which is you reached out, you asked for support, And you not only reached out to one person, but you put people in motion, my friend. You're like, you're going to do this, and you delegated that, and you got the support you needed. Is that something that comes naturally to you, or was that part of your healing journey too?
Certainly part of my healing. I mean,
Yeah,
I've never been one to really want to ask for help,
yeah,
to receive help from other people. And it just, I'm actually, again, grateful. And I don't think anybody else would ever say they're grateful for having an accident at work, but
yeah,
I am. And it's because it really put me in this position where I said, listen, I can be stuck in this bathroom all day and cry, and
yeah,
that's fine, or I can do something about this. And
yeah,
I know for a fact that these people can help me.
yeah,
And I also know that if I'm being this vulnerable and telling them what happens,
yeah,
like I'm safe and okay, and these are people I love and care about, and why wouldn't I let them help me in this particular situation? So it really pushed me to my most vulnerable edge and forced me to just look at things and say, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I need help, I can ask for help, and it will help me. And I mean, that's changed the way I look at asking for help. I am so much more willing now to go to that vulnerable place and be okay because it makes me human, and that's
yep.
all I want to be.
Yep. Well, and you doing it has opened up a whole new path in your life. And now people come to you and ask you for help across all kinds of things. They're inspired by your story. They're inspired about the healing components. They're inspired about the love components. They're inspired about the authenticity and the um, your willingness to go there and really see yourself in a new way and experience what it could be like. Tell us a little bit about how you do work with people and the journey that you take people on. I know you have a book coming up, and I want to get to that as well. So tell us how we led to this book.
Absolutely, yeah. So this entire process, there was kind of one theme around everything that was happening. Whether it
Okay.
was my health, whether it was my love life, whether it was my career, it was all about me claiming things on my own terms
Yeah.
again, and really living life from my own space. And what I realized was that I had reached success at a very young age. I started an agency at age 22. I was being flown to movie premieres. I was doing all these really cool things that I thought would make me happy, and yet I wasn't even happy. It wasn't before the health, before the love. I still wasn't happy.
Right.
And then I added in all these things about the relationships I were in weren't satisfying me. I never had this level of love like I did with Garrett. My job wasn't satisfying me and really feeling like it was my soul's purpose.
Right.
So I decided to redefine success for myself and really figure out what are the metrics that are going to make me happy. What are the metrics I want to work towards, not somebody else's.
Yeah.
And that's what my book is really about. It's called Enough Already, Create Success in Your Own Terms. And it comes out April 1st, so I'm so excited. But yeah, this book is really about, defining the metrics of success for yourself and then the path that you can take to actually implement and create it in your own life. So it's a 12-step guide, similar to a hero's journey, and it really works on kind of the outer and inner work that you need to do to get to this level of kind of healing your life and owning it, really claiming your power again and figuring out what's going to make you happy, and that's what success can be to you.
Oh, I love it. So give us a little sneak peek. What's one step of those 12 steps on the journey? Maybe one where people get the most hung up, or maybe one that was most challenging for you.
Well, I think the first step,
Yeah.
just knowing what success means to you is
Yeah.
huge. It's really difficult because I always say, we have enough trouble picking out a movie on Netflix. How do we know what we want out of life? And one thing I always recommend to people is that success feels natural.
Yeah.
Because there are already aspects of our life that are successful. We wouldn't survive today if they weren't. So maybe we have a relationship with a family member we really love.
Yeah.
Maybe we have a good partnership. Maybe we like work, or maybe we have one client we love. Something in our life is successful.
Yes.
So we need to break that down and find out what in that makes us feel successful. And when we do that, we can already see, because it's kind of the magic of life, we can see the steps that we need to take to kind of model our entire life off of that. I always tell Garrett, in our relationship, it's a sacred space. And the things we do in here, is sacred first, and then we can expand that outward.
Yeah.
We really want to use this as a sacred space. And you can do that in any aspect of your life. Anywhere that is successful, just look at that and figure out, okay, how can I replicate this throughout the rest of my life?
Oh, that's such good advice. I absolutely just am so grateful to hear your story and your willingness to share so transparent. It shows us how, starting from that place of diagnosis potentially, or challenge, or our body speaking, or whatever it is, can bring in so many opportunities for healing and for change and for alignment. But what you get having gone through that and you come out the other side is this better understanding of who you are and this redefinition of success. And ultimately, that's what brings the meaning into our life. So if someone is coming to this story, finding your work, finding your book, and they're anywhere on that continuum, from right now feeling like they've just been hit by that diagnosis train, like I can't believe that there's a light at the end of this tunnel, but I want to believe, or just beginning to see the light, or already at the point where they're beginning to ask the questions that you describe in the book, like, okay, well, what really is my truth, and what do I want the light to look like? I'm actually gonna create the light I want to see. What's one thing that a person could do, regardless of where they are in their journey, to begin to align to the type of energy that you're describing?
Sure, do what you're afraid of. The step in the book.
Oh, sure. Just go right to that one, Mike.
Step two, because I say fear is the best compass that we have for success.
Yeah.
Because when you're afraid, fear is a specific emotion. It's not annoyance. It's not nervous. It's fear. So that means that you attach a lot of meaning to whatever this thing is that you're afraid of. It's important to you, and it's something that you have a limiting belief around. That you believe that you are not safe, that you will not be okay if you go after this. So right there, it tells me that that's probably a barrier to success and a compass that you can use to get successful. The things that have changed my life the most, like we talked about, going to acupuncture the first time, or getting out of that bathroom stall, were the scariest moments of my life.
Yeah.
And when I did those, I put them in my back pocket, and I said, if I can do that, I can do anything. And that really led me to the next thing I was afraid of, and the next. And it got almost contagious, because I thought, I can be this courageous person. And the big misconception I think we all have is that we think of courage as this kind of like blanket term we can give to everybody. People who wear booty shorts in public or can start their own company, they're courageous. But that's just, all of society projecting onto them.
Right.
Courage is, specific to each of us.
Yeah.
And it's only courageous if you go after what you're afraid of. It's not the action that matters,
Yeah.
It's how much fear you have to get over, because that's what's propelling you forward. So I know it's a tough one, but even when, if you're in the middle of a health crisis and you just want to try something new and it takes so much courage to do that, know that just that step of using that energy is already propelling your healing.
I love it. It's a tough one, but it's probably one of the best Shift Series 1 things we've heard yet. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your story. Thank you for modeling all of this and so authentically sharing your energy and your light with the world. And I look forward to talking with you soon. I want everyone to take a look at the links below. Go find Mike online. You will want to read everything he writes, whether it's a blog post or this first book or the 10th book, because I know it's coming. And thank you again so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I've had such a blast.
Such a pleasure.